Okay, boyfriend, what are we drinking today?
Today we're going to be drinking a washed Ethiopian coffee roasted by Prototype. It's got notes of lemon zest, honeysuckle, as well as pineapple. Going to be nice and delicious.
Oh, wait a minute. Are these the slower Sunday mugs from Less Shitty?
I believe they are.
And are these handmade locally in small batches right here in Vancouver?
It would appear so.
And are these currently live at lessshitty.com?
100%.
Check it out, folks.
You gotta save some for me.
Yummy.
Lemon zesty.
So we had an interesting question, and they asked if we could tell our younger selves a message, what would it be? And I thought, before we talk to our younger selves, maybe we should probably describe what we were like kids, because both you and I were quite different as kids.
I was pretty outgoing as a kid and like very, like energetic and like wanting to talk to everybody and whatnot. I think that kind of slowed down as I got older and like I became more recluse and just, keeping to myself. Yeah. But yeah, I was like definitely bouncing off the walls as a kid.
You're a little shithead.
I was a little shithead a little bit.
Were you good to your parents?
I think it depends on the circumstance. From like behaving, like no, I wasn't really like good at following orders or like sitting still.
Ryan also most likely has undiagnosed ADHD. And actually he was trying for a very long time to get a referral, but he had to do a test.
Yeah, I eventually like did the test and it came back. I did it.
Okay. But the second one?
Yeah, I was supposed to go like get a reference to like a therapist or like a specialist or whatever they're called. And just like never followed up with like a cancellation appointment and just took forever.
And it's still taken forever.
Yeah.
But that's because of you. Like you didn't follow up with them.
No, I know. But it's also like, it's whenever I think, oh, I should follow up with this. It's like I'm in the shower or I'm like driving the car and it's never a good time for me to, or like I'm filming a podcast.
When I was a kid, I was definitely shy, super, super quiet. Like I would not talk to any adults. I told this story before, but I was in ESL, like English second language growing up. Partly because I wasn't, my English wasn't that great, but also because I was really, really shy. Like I wouldn't talk to adults, so they would just assume that my English was poor. And then my friends would ask me like, why are you in ESL? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, I was just super nervous to talk to adults. I don't know why. Like any adult that wasn't my parent, I just couldn't talk to them. Like I don't know, something about it. But other than that, I feel like for the most part, I was a pretty good kid. Like I followed the rules. I, for the most part, like did what my parents told me to do. And I think because of that, I was a very like easy target for bullies. So yeah, I had a really bad bullying situation in elementary school. Like the proper, like, when kids get like thrown into dumpsters.
You got thrown into a dumpster?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
By 3 kids. Wow. In Sweetgrass Elementary School by Yeton, Dorada, and Erletta.
What fucking names?
Fuck you guys. Anyways, yeah, I got picked on pretty bad. I think just like the combination of me being very quiet, had like raggedy clothes, and I just looked funny. My proportions were weird. Like my head was massive and I had such a tiny frame. But yeah, that was my childhood.
I think it was kind of on the other side of the spectrum.
You were the bully?
I wasn't the bully, but I hung out with the bullies.
Ugh.
I know.
That's just as worse. That's just as bad.
I was an enabler, right?
Terrible.
And like looking back at like school, like I remember like kids picking on other kids for like being queer and like bullied out of school for this and that. And it was
Look how the tables turned.
Yeah.
Now you're queer.
I'm queer.
Yeah.
So I've definitely come a long way. I was also like heavily influenced by religion growing up.
Yeah.
So like,
but this is more so into like high school days, right? Like when you were with the bullies.
Yeah, no, I mean before that even, like from like middle school to high school. Like in high school, there was like came a point when I just like immediately just left my friend group. Yeah. I was like, this is not good for me. I don't like these people or the way they behave. And I just like went and sat down with a different group of people one day randomly and they were my new friends.
Do you think that being a church kid kind of affected your childhood, like childhood personality?
I think so, yeah. I think because the way I grew up was like kind of focused on going to heaven, and that was the main purpose of like existence.
Right.
So I remember like thinking as a kid, like I can't wait to die so I can go to heaven.
What the hell?
And like messed up things like that, and
Yeah.
like questioning like existence and morality of like being alive
Yeah.
at like 7, 8 years old is just messed up.
Yeah,
Like,
it's deep shit. Yeah.
and it's way too much to put on a kid, in my opinion. And I think
Yeah.
that like influenced me into my teen years, and like how much of like a, I don't know, evangelical and Christian I was, and like inviting people to youth group on the weekends and being a leader in my youth group. I think my first girlfriend was like a flirt to convert,
Yeah, yeah.
and which is completely messed up. And I'm sure I created a lot of trauma that way too.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
It was fucked up. And like, I mean, you can't like ignore the fact that you did some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I've also been in like the evangelical kind of mindset where we went to Mexico. We went to Tijuana to do like, you know, Christian stuff. At the same time, there was a bunch of homeless people in Edmonton that we didn't really do anything about.
Same kind of thing. It's like, what about our local communities that like, are we even doing anything for them?
No, because it doesn't look that good. It doesn't look good on Facebook. Yeah. Do you think that if we met as kids, we would be friends?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because I feel like you would have been part of the cool kids. And then I also just had no friend, except like one friend in elementary school that really like encouraged me to like go biking and do activities. But other than that, I had like no friends. So for me, as I was growing up, I think the reason why I was so quiet and shy eventually was because I was so self-conscious about what other people would think of me that I was just like constantly replay the situation in my head over and over as a kid for days and months and like even years after a situation happened. Like I remember when I was in elementary school, one of the teachers like brought in his guitar and was like passing it around to the students. And for some reason, I remember when he passed me the guitar, he took like a sigh, and it was probably nothing. Like it was probably nothing. But then for me, it was like, oh, he didn't want to pass the guitar to me. And then I like literally kept thinking about that for at least 5 years.
That's
like,
wild.
Yeah, into my like, so these like little situations I just kept like repeating in my head, and maybe that's why I just kind of like stopped talking, because like, you know, if you're not talking, you can't really fuck up too bad. And then I think that also really affected me going into like, you know, high school. I was just very like self-conscious about what other people would think of me, very self-conscious about my appearance and how I, you know, looked, and just like worried if people would like me, etc. And yeah, now looking back, it definitely kind of, you know, everything that happens in your childhood, you know, definitely affects you in some capacity into your adult life. All right, so now that you guys know a bit of our childhood, what would you like to say to your childhood self?
I would like to tell myself to think a little bit more for my own desires and my own thoughts. Like critically think on what's important to me, not just like the community around me or like what my parents or whoever is telling me to believe or what to do, but like to learn how to make decisions for myself earlier, regardless of how other people feel, because I was always supported to do that. But I mean, in circumstances, but like education and schooling and, you know, what I would do for a career, but like in any circumstance, just like figuring out what I like and what I believe in a little bit earlier, and how to make those decisions.
I think for myself, I just say like, stop worrying so much about what other people are thinking of you, because, you know, a lot of the times, the majority of times, they're not even looking at you. Like, they're not even thinking about you. And if you do something, it happens, and they've probably forgotten about it because they also have shit going on in their lives. But even if I were to tell myself, I probably wouldn't like believe it. I would probably still, kind of live my life very worried about what other people thought about me. And I think that's just something you learn with age. And as you get older and as life gets a lot more complex, it just doesn't take as much of a priority. I'd be lying if, I'd say I didn't think about it at all. Of course, I have to, because it's kind of, slightly related with my work. I have to, kind of consider the feedback that I'm given. Obviously, kind of differentiate between, haters and trolls, but also like genuine constructive criticism. But I wouldn't say it's like in my forefront. Before, when I was a kid, in my young adult life, that would be like the first thing and only thing I would kind of consider. But yeah, I think it just comes with age. You just learn to not give a fuck.
I think one thing I would really like to help teach our kids is for them to make their own decisions and to like think for themselves from an early age.
Yeah.
And just like encourage critical thinking.
Yeah, I think that's
like,
the biggest
regardless
thing.
of like what I want you to do, what do you think you should do? And then like talk about it and like, be able to have discussion, but also like,
Yeah, I agree. I think the ability to critically think and be open to multiple perspectives is such an important kind of topic that isn't really encouraged in kids as a young age. I feel like I mentioned, we're so fed what our parents believe, and it's only that. There is no other. But yeah, if we could just kind of eventually, when we do have kids, encourage just like how to decipher, or like even how to do proper research into what's fact, what's an opinion, and just, accepting that it's okay that people are going to have different opinions. Speaking of kids, piano, hockey,
no hockey.
Swimming,
Not hockey.
soccer.
Hockey is too much of a commitment. Hockey
is also very expensive.
It is,
but
it is a
honestly,
rich kid sport.
That is the one thing that I wish my parents put me in. Like growing up, we had no money. So we really had no time for any extracurricular activities. I didn't do piano. I didn't do any sports, except like taking swimming lessons, because that was like a life skill. But I think the one thing is that, damn, I wish I really took hockey, because I think if I took hockey, I wouldn't have gotten bullied as hard.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's like one of those like,
you create like a family that protects you almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's just, there's like, with like minor hockey and doing some of those,
such a
like,
big commitment.
It is a huge commitment. Like you're driving all the time. You're like constantly on a bus.
Yeah.
Like
the equipment, the money.
It's just not like feasible for most families.
Maybe just soccer.
Soccer for sure.
Swimming lessons for
Anything that like requires little equipment. And basketball, also, soccer, long jump, sure.
And then probably something artistic and musical.
Of course.
Piano, guitar.
As many extracurricular activities as they would like to do. Whatever they want. Encourage them to do as many as they can.
Yeah, but also, allowing them to not do that and just chill.
Yeah, of course.
Play.
Kids need time to be kids.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of kind of like tiger parents are just so like, you got to do this, you got to do this. And all of that comes from an aspect of love, because they want to encourage their kids to be the absolute best. But yeah, you just gotta chill out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But swimming lessons for sure.
Absolutely. If you have like your level 10 in swimming and you have your lifeguard certificate,
honestly, I feel like that's like a very life hack that no one talks about, because that's the route that I took. Is that I took my swimming lessons and then I worked as a swimming instructor, which you start at like, I think $17.
This is, mind you, this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, this was when like minimum wage was like what, $9, I think.
Yeah.
So I was making like double a lot of my friends back in high school, because you can start swimming instructor when you're pretty young. And then when you're a lifeguard, I think maybe start at $20. Like,
and
it's
doing
pretty
like 4-hour
wild.
shifts. And
no, that's not true. You can do like up to 8 to 10 hour shifts, I think. Take swimming so you can make more money.
Tell your kids to take swimming.
More money, more bitches.
That's true.
Should we close off the podcast? It's a podcast now.
It's a podcast.
Initially, I was denying it because, podcasters get a bad rep, especially if it's just two guys talking about absolute nonsense. But I feel like the theme of this podcast is just talking about different ways to be less shitty. So, I feel like it could be hopefully slightly positive.
Yeah.
And something slightly meaningful.
Hopefully you got something out of this.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching or listening. And remember to be less shitty.